love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now waiting, better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything.
Hey everybody, this is Praxis. Today here in New England we are experiencing a smoke event, which is smoke coming down from Canada. It's blowing down here, and at the moment the sun up in the sky is a beautiful kind of pinky peach sort of color. It's pretty lovely actually. There's a haze of smoke in the air. You can smell the smoke just a little bit, and it's an opportunity right now to do two things. One, to try to not breathe in too much of it, because breathing in smoke... Is this even still controversial? Breathing in smoke into your lungs is not a healthy thing to do, so it's an opportunity to try to minimize how much of the smoke that you are inhaling, and it's also an opportunity to kind of test some of your systems around your house for filtering out things like that and creating an environment in your house that can be different from the environment that is outside of your house. Now, one critique I'm sure I'm going to hear here on this video is that this is kind of stupid. This is something that's happening right now, so why are we talking about it? Prepping channels are supposed to look into the future and speculate as to things that might happen in the future and prepare for them ahead of time, so then when those things happen, you're all ready for them. So why am I talking about this now when this thing is happening? Well, I know the reality is that for most people, what prepping means is to watch videos online that unsettle you, frighten you, to not do anything about it until the very last minute, and then to kind of, along with everybody else, kind of take some steps. So in this video, I will be suggesting some steps that you could be doing right now at the last minute to try to make things better for yourself. While we are experiencing here in New England an event right now, this very moment, there are going to be other events in the future. So while you're not preparing for ahead of time for this event, you would be preparing for other events in the future. And also, if you are already prepared for this, like I mentioned, this is a great opportunity to kind of test out your systems. And that's what we're doing here at our place. Because if there was another event, like today, there's just a little bit of smoke in the air, I'm not going to step outside and then drop dead or anything like that. But I can be inside the house, and if I am smelling smoke inside the house, that means that my systems are not working. Now let's imagine another event where there's something falling out of the sky, who knows what that could be, where the outside environment would not be safe and you would want to have a cleaner environment inside your house. This represents an excellent opportunity in the same way that COVID-19 was an opportunity to test out a lot of your protocols, to see if you could, can I mask and avoid getting sick? Can I distance from people and avoid getting sick? So while COVID-19 wasn't the absolute most dangerous illness in the world by far, that we would ever have to worry about, it gave us an excellent opportunity if you weren't going to get all bitchy about it and be all like, I'm not going to wear a mask. It was an excellent opportunity to try out your preps and to see if they would work. Because if you could avoid getting COVID-19, that would mean that you could avoid getting something that's much, much more dangerous potentially in the future. So while a lot of people just threw out that opportunity to test their preps because they wanted a virtue signal and be all like, I'm not afraid of COVID-19. We here were using it as an opportunity to see if our systems really worked, and they did. Nobody got sick. Nobody's been sick here for like 4 years. So taking opportunities like this to test out your systems when the risks are not super high. The risks with COVID were not super high. The risks today with the smoke level we have in the air right now are not really high. And I should hedge that. The risk from COVID-19 for people that are elderly or people who have comorbidities and things like that, it is more dangerous than for the average people. But I'm talking for the average people. So if you can take events like this that are not particularly dangerous, asterisks, and use them as testing opportunities, you can really find out if you got holes in your system. So that's what we're doing here today. So what are the systems that we're using to try to make it so that we are not, inhaling a lot of this stuff that is floating, very visibly around us in the air. Well, the first thing we're doing is we're closing the windows and we're using our air exchanger that is bringing air into our house as our primary air supply for the house. Now that might sound like, well, you're just pumping the air right inside. Well, what we do with our air exchanger is that we have a series of filters. Now the air exchanger unit itself is made by Panasonic. That has filters within it, and those filters are all proprietary little Panasonic things, and I don't know what they cost to replace them, but I'm sure it's like a lot to replace all these very specific filters, and then I'm sure Panasonic's going to like discontinue these filters or something like that. It'll be hard to get. So what we've done here is that we have the air filters that are inside our air exchange unit, but we pre-filter all of our air before it even gets to that unit to make it so we essentially never even need to use those filters because the air is getting pre-filtered before it goes in. I built a filter box. It's outside of our house. It looks a little bit like a beehive. In fact, it looks so much like a beehive that it got attacked by a bear. You know, when we first put it up, that I think a bear thought that he was going to find honey in there. Boo-hoo for the bear. All they found was a bunch of air filters. We made a big air filter box, and that pre-filters all the air that's coming into our house. So we have a constant supply of positive pressure air coming into our house, and it is being filtered. And while things like viruses are fairly difficult to filter out, in fact, a lot of like the N95 masks, the mesh on them can't filter out an individual virus, and they are more filtering out like clumps of viruses or viruses bonded to mucus that's blown out in the air. As compared to a virus, ash particles are really pretty large, so they are pretty easy to filter out with any kind of a basic filter. So that is our first line of defense, is filtering the air that comes into our house. Now, no house is going to be perfect in terms of being like hermetically sealed. You've got gaps all around your windows. Every time you open your door, you're letting air from the outside in. In particular, at our house, we have a situation where we are exhausting some of the waste heat from keeping our pantry cool, and while we are exhausting that warm air, that creates a vacuum in our house, and it is drawing some of that air from the outside in. I'm working on improving that system so it can work a little bit more efficiently, but at the moment that's what we're creating. So we do have some air that is being drawn into the house because of that waste heat being blown out of the house. So what we have inside the house is a series of air filters inside the house. So whatever air is coming into the house has another opportunity to be filtered in a way that's not through our lungs. So that's something else that we're doing, and we're using those two things as lines of defense. Now, if we didn't have any of those things, I guess we could go around our house wearing N95 masks. N95 masks have pluses and minuses, and you kind of have to balance those. Are the benefits of wearing it worth the downsides of it? Because when you wear them for a while, there's little pieces of the mask that kind of get into your lungs, and you kind of have to do a bit of a balancing act. If there's a very, very small amount of smoke in the air, at some point it gets so low that the issues with inhaling the dust and everything off of the masks is going to outweigh the benefits that you get. But if the smoke level is pretty high, you're going to prefer to have that mask on. So if you have not prepared for this event, this is an opportunity to make some preparations, not for today. You're not prepping for the event today, but prepping for possibly worse events in the future, or a repeat of what we're seeing today. Events like this are wonderful opportunities to test your systems, see if they work, and do it in a way where if you find out that they don't work, the price that you have to pay is not particularly high. That works for events like this, for events like various diseases that are going around. If you can figure out how to avoid these things that are not super dangerous, when the really dangerous things come around, you'll have already done that trial and error, and you hopefully have gotten your errors out of your system. That's it. I hope you find this helpful. Actually get off your butt and do something, because someday you might be kicking yourself thinking, I had that opportunity in the past. Praxis was saying, get ready now, and if you don't, you'll have only yourself to blame. Or maybe me, because I was not compelling enough. That's it. But get off your butt, do something, at least think about it. Have a plan so that, if you get some idle Tuesday someday, you can be like, yep, I'm gonna execute that plan. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you're interested in this topic and you'd like to consider getting an air filter for installing inside your house, I recently did a video review of one that has an interesting feature where it will test the quality of the air as it's filtering it. If you're interested in checking out that video, here's a link.